I'm John Fensterwald, writer of the blog Educated Guest and host of the website Top Ed, Thoughts on Public Education in California, a forum on California education policy. Join me while I interview interesting and informed leaders in education. You'll learn a lot in 10 minutes or less. I'm John Fensterwald, and today I have with me David Plank, who's Executive Director of PACE, Policy Analysis for California Education, which is an independent research center based at Stanford, USC, and Cal. And it also has a new blog. David has a new blog. It's conditionsofedinca.org, and I highly recommend that you read it after you do your daily dose of toped.org. So David's an authority on many areas in education, and today I've asked him to speak about state assessments, which of course is very much in the news with the emphasis on data and holding students and schools accountable for student progress. So David, welcome.
Thank you very much, John.
So let's start off. Basically, why do assessments matter?
Assessments are important for two big reasons. The first is that we really want to be fair and accurate in the way we measure what students know and are able to do. As you mentioned, we hold schools accountable, we hold students accountable. We increasingly seek to hold teachers accountable, and we want to be sure that the measures we have are accurate. The second reason is because there's an old truism in education that what's measured matters. And we want to be sure that the things that we measure steer teachers towards the content that's most important for their students to learn.
Mm-hmm. So what makes for a good assessment?
Fairness, accuracy, depth of understanding. One of the great weaknesses of California's education system is that we rely almost entirely on multiple choice items to assess student learning. And one of my favorite examples of that is one of the state standards requires students to understand the principles of ecology. And the item that measures their understanding asks them which of these animals is at the top of the food chain. That's a useful thing to know, but it hardly demonstrates a complete understanding of ecology.
Yeah, and the strengths of California's system?
One of the strengths of California's system is that we have, of course, very high standards, and we have an assessment that's called that's part of the early assessment program that measures student performance at the level of college readiness, of readiness for non-remedial work in college. And that's unique across the United States. It's a great strength of California's system and something that we can build on as we build a stronger assessment system.
And you've been involved in that, and would you like to see it expanded?
Yes, we worked last year with all of the segments of post-secondary education in California to get agreement that satisfactory performance on the early assessment program could serve as an indicator of readiness for non-remedial coursework in any of California's colleges and universities. And we'd like to see that work expanded. We'd like to see more of the colleges and universities use the early assessment program. We'd like to see secondary schools organize their curriculum to get more of their students to that level of performance.
And so there's a lot of talk that the goal ultimately is college and career readiness. And how does that fit in with that goal? And how do California standardized tests fit in with that right now?
Well, this is really where we're going in the assessment system. California's current assessment system does a very poor job of assessing career readiness, certainly.
Yeah.
The EAP provides a pretty good indicator of college readiness. But to evaluate career readiness, we really need a much deeper, richer set of assessments that measure student performance on authentic tasks rather than just looking at multiple choice answers. So, for example, we can embed assessment items in complex tasks that measure students' understanding of critical content, their critical thinking skills, their ability to work in teams, their ability to collaborate with one another. Those are all important skills for the workplace, which are not measured in California's current assessment system.
Are they measured anywhere in states? Do states do this?
this is the great opportunity that California now faces, is that the federal government has just appropriated about $350 million to develop new assessments, which have the capacity, which at least open the possibility that we will develop assessments that can provide those kinds of deep, authentic, performance-based evaluations of what students know and are able to do. No, there are some states that are moving forward on this faster than California is. Ohio is one, but California now has an opportunity to introduce assessments of that kind here as well.
I see. I'm assuming they're a little bit more expensive to do, or?
We did a conference on this last summer, and our colleagues who came and presented at the conference argued that this can be done within the sort of range of what we spend on assessment now. We would simply have to redeploy the resources that we now use to evaluate our students in ways that supported these kinds of richer assessments.
And so, as you said, you teach to what you test. So if these were then became part of the assessments in California, how would that affect what students learn and what teachers teach, you think?
I think it really, the goal is to provide a deeper understanding of what our students know. So it would guide teachers towards more complex forms of instruction.
Yeah.
It would encourage them to evaluate students' understanding rather than their mastery of a specific set of facts. It would orient teachers to a richer form of instruction.
Do you think these would replace the California standardized tests, or is this complementary, or how do you envision these rolling out in the next 4 or 5 years?
These are really a new form of assessment. So in that sense, they would at least complement, if not replace, the current assessments. What we're facing in California is an opportunity, partly funded by the federal government, to develop these new assessments. And to the current California assessment system sunsets in 2013.
Okay.
So in the next 2-3 years, we have to rethink the way we evaluate students. We'd very much like to see California move in the direction of richer assessments as a substitute for the system that we have now.
So what would you advise Governor Brown, incoming Governor Brown, to do? I know assessments he has as one of his priorities in his education platform. So what would you like to see his administration do?
I think there are several principles that should govern the development of a new assessment system. One of those is vertical alignment. There are 2 consortia, cross-state consortia, that are working to develop new assessment systems. And part of what they promise is that the assessments that they develop will provide an accurate measure of student progress through the grades.
Okay.
So that we'll have an earlier warning system for when students are getting off track or falling behind where they should be in the education system. Another is that the system should be adaptive to the different abilities that students bring. And this is particularly important with regard to English language learners, that many of the assessments that we use now evaluate students' mastery of English rather than what they know about academic content.
I see. Sounds like a challenge for the next couple of years.
It's a big challenge, but as you note, Governor Brown has put assessment into his education platform as one of his priorities. We have the federal resources that are becoming available to develop new assessments, and there's quite a bit of energy around this issue, so there's reason to be optimistic.
Well, David, thank you for coming with us today, and I'm sure everyone will be reading about this on your blog, which again you can see at conditionsofedinca.org, and I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.